It's been a long, hard journey for decades, even centuries, moving forward in women's empowerment. Now, we may be approaching a tipping point in business, in government, and in other institutions around the world.
Welcome to Business and Society. I'm John Palusek, your host. We're reporting today from the United Nations Global Headquarters in New York, where a major conference on women's empowerment is about to get underway. This is a conference that has drawn some 250 leaders in the movement to talk about gender equality and the global jobs challenge. Dr. Slaughter, there has been so much done on women's empowerment, and there's so much more to be done. How do we draw a bottom line on that?
We still need to address one of the most fundamental questions in developed countries, which is how on earth you could possibly have women doing full-time leadership jobs, 24/7 jobs, travel around the world jobs, without a lead parent at home. In developing countries, again, there's a tremendous amount we still need to do in terms of opening opportunities for women. But a lot of those opportunities are not going to be open for women unless we also change norms and opportunities for men. Because we've gone just about as far as we can go with women trying to do all the work dad used to do and the work mom used to do. We need to actually find ourselves in a situation where men and women are both caregivers and breadwinners.
I have to ask you briefly about your iconic article in Atlantic.
Yes.
In her autobiography, Justice Sotomayor says this: as for the possibility of having it all, career and family, with no sacrifices for either, that is a myth we would do well to abandon, together with the pernicious notion that a woman who chooses one or the other is somehow deficient.
I love that.
You buy it?
I do. Yes, you know, it's interesting. Justice Sotomayor and I had a conversation on this front when I first became dean at Princeton. I was the dean of the Woodrow Wilson School, and I remember her saying something like this to me, and at that point, I was in my early 40s, and I said, oh, come on, of course we can have it all. You know, a decade later, I wrote an article saying, actually, you can make it work. You can fit together work and family if you're wealthy, if you have a job that allows you to control your own time, and if you're fairly superhuman and organized. But overall, I agree with her much more. I don't think women or men can actually, you know, have a career full out and also be a primary caregiver. Something's going to give in the majority of cases.
So bottom line, in sum, what's the message to a young, aspiring woman who wants to move forward and achieve her personal and professional objectives?
First thing is to believe that she can do it, but to understand there are likely to be lots of trade-offs along the way, and to prepare for those. So not to just believe it's as easy as she's been raised to think it is, that there are going to be lots of trade-offs. To believe that she is going to have to engage the men in her life and ask them to make trade-offs, just as much as she's going to have to make trade-offs.
Joining us now is Barbara Krumsiek, CEO of Calvert Investments. Thank you very much for coming, Cal.
Thank you, John. Glad to be here.
We've just come from your session, and you offered a number of very, very interesting comments. One of them you called the messy middle. What do you mean by the messy middle?
If we have 60% of college graduates as women entering our workforce, being at a phase in their career where meritocracy is very prevalent and entering with great enthusiasm, then we wind up with only 4.2% of CEOs of large companies are women. It's not that jump from the entry level to leadership that's the issue. It is this, what I call the messy middle. So when I think of the messy middle, I think of what happens when in the workplace it's beyond competence. It's about all the other factors that contribute to executive development and leadership success.
And women's empowerment has been a long story, and there have been some great achievements. There's still much to be done, but I think you feel that we may be approaching a tipping point.
So I have said this before, but this time I really mean it. I think we're at a tipping point. And the reason I think we are is because I'm seeing for the first time all elements that can affect gender equality, whether it's governments, communities, and consumers caring about the role of women in factories and in workplaces. So I'm seeing all elements of society really aspire.
And Steve Almond, global chair of Deloitte, and Deloitte itself, stressed that there's something very special here that men should undertake.
Absolutely, and we need that awareness level by CEOs, and male and female, and men in the workplace about these norms.
And now for a little context on today's event and on the Women's Empowerment Principles program itself. We're joined by Ursula Winhoven, who is the General Counsel for the United Nations Global Compact. This is quite an event. There are 7 principles. There are almost 700 companies that have now endorsed it in some fashion. Where is it now, and where might it be heading in terms of women's empowerment?
And thanks for the great remarks actually about the event. We're really excited about how it's going. So the Women's Empowerment Principles, they're 7 steps for business on how to empower women and promote gender equality in the workplace, marketplace and community. And they've only been going for around 4 years actually. So the nearly 700 CEOs that you talked about are really just accumulated in that time. And it's quite exciting to see that we're nearly getting one more each day. It's really an agenda for all. I mean, like you were saying, it's an agenda for women, it's an agenda for men, it's for governments, business, civil society. So I would want to have a positive, empowering, supportive message to women entering the workforce.